It's Memory Day today on Dennis Cleveland.
You don't love me the way I am, then you can go.
When I get my six on, I like to position. If I can't position, then I ain't enjoying it.
Highway to highway. No, straight to the
We came halfway around the world to perform the opera Dennis Cleveland. We left New York in midwinter to come here in midsummer. It's the first time the piece has been performed outside the United States, here at the Perth International Arts Festival. It's about a very American topic.
The strange and compelling ritual that is the American confessional TV talk show becomes a kind of abstract music theatre piece as the roving host, Dennis Cleveland, interacts with the talk show guests, the New York cast assembled on stage, and the other mostly Australian cast members placed in the studio audience. Studio lights, big screens, monitors and television cameras were moved into place at the Octagon Theatre on the campus of the University of Western Australia. After composer, librettist and protagonist Mikel Rouse and designer John Jezerin had flown in for an immediate start on a tight production schedule. The apparently calm and urbane Mr. Rouse perhaps would have been tempted to quote his own character, the talk show host Dennis Cleveland, who asks the audience, "Why are you here today? There's got to be someplace else."
Now that's interactive multimedia.
Exactly, we'll see who wins.
I came here and over a period of 2 days, cast 11 people, I think, out of about 40 or 50. And then we started the process of doing rehearsals with just the local cast. And then while that's going on, we're sort of doing all the bump in at the Octagon Theatre.
When the time was there, you built another hotel. Billy Goat don't know the difference from wholesale. Gonna be the prominent mobile at scale. No point in the middle of life. But you're getting it, you're getting it.
In terms of the rehearsal process, you know, the first thing is for them to sort of develop characterization, to understand what it is they're going to bring to the piece, because I'm very adamant about them figuring out who they'll be in the piece and not just trying to invent a character that they think might be on a talk show.
Then I get hamburgers and cokes, as many as I want. And in about 45 minutes, I'm ready to go. But he says just one more.
The difficult thing for the local cast is that they sometimes never really completely understand what the piece is until they're doing it, because so much of what they do depends on audience reaction.
And people are getting saved.
Saved from what?
You know, saved from themselves, like not even being crippled anymore. And it's like everyone gets it but me.
The opera runs on one continuous sequence, so that the trick is for all the confessions and dialogues from the audience to take place as naturalistic and as believably as possible, but in point of fact, we're punching a clock right down to the second.
I said to Michael, we were talking about the show, and I'm sure it will take off, but I sort of said rather lightly, well, now all we need is bums on seats, and he was absolutely horrified. He said, "Why do we need these old tramps on our seats?"
The music is so complex, and it seems simplistic when you're first listening and you think, oh yeah, I get this. And then you realise there's all these rhythms working against each other and different elements that keep coming through it. There's a pulse to it.
Cool.
I think because of the music, it's absolutely going to hit people.
What he is interested in is that we imagine, well, how would it be if a real talk show came here, and we thought we were the kind of person who was interested in a talk show, and we came here, and who would we be in that moment? And so that's a really interesting thing to explore, because it's not just as simple as going, this is my character, I'll take on my character. It's like, who would I be if I came to a talk show that was like this?
What do you think people feel when they leave the theatre generally? Do they feel alienated, or disturbed, or do you think they feel uplifted?
People come and they feel comfortable because everybody recognizes that they've either been to a talk show or they've seen a talk show, so that, you know, they don't feel like I'm going to this proscenium stage thing and it's going to be an opera and it's going to be a really difficult evening. It's more like, oh, I get this, I understand this, there's cameras, there's lights, there's this, I'm applauding, I'm doing things. And so they're immediately put at ease, they're comfortable, and then you can start hitting them with real information, both the content of the libretto, both the larger structures in the music, and the import of the piece, you know, i.e. this idea of ritual and television and media and our relationship to it. Every single person that auditioned was pretty amazing. So it was a very difficult choice to make, to choose the 11. I'm very happy with the 11 I chose, and I think they did a phenomenal job. So, you know, you never know what to expect in any given situation.
I don't have to fill every seat in the house with the same sound, although I've got left and right signals, and I have to make sure that every speaker carries through the whole area, so it's even no matter where you sit. And it has to be balanced out between them on stage, which is a fairly loud setup as it is, because this room has been redesigned years ago to be an acoustic venue that doesn't need amplification. All of a sudden we're bringing in sound with a lot of bass and trying to fly everything on top of it. And we've got 9 open microphones, which are very easily fly off the handle, and Michael's told me that often they get into feedback problems and it just goes all over the place. So I was a bit worried about how the whole thing's going to pan out, but I left myself plenty of room to play with, so I'll start low and then eventually probably have to push the edges, especially when people really like the show and it's going to be applause, 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 and you still want to hear everything clear. So I expect a couple of sweaty points, but so far it's looking good. Not me, the show.
I think it sounds great. And it sounds clear. You've got a little distortion, some kind of on the woofer on the left.
Sort out which mics you want.
All right, well, let's start with this and see how we like the sound. Check, 1, 2.
Set and video designer John Jezerin once worked on an American TV talk show and brought that experience to Dennis Cleveland. Is this very similar to the way things are set up in a TV talk show? Yeah. I actually wanted to do it sitting under the ladder.
I would say certainly the audience is smaller in a real TV talk show, but it's pretty similar. What's different is these 2 big screens in the back. So we've made it kind of a super real by having these blowing everything up in the back. So that's different. The TV sprinkled around you would probably see in some talk shows. One thing I did learn working on the talk show is how you can manipulate anything you put under the light. You can actually make it into almost whatever you want. And a lot of the people could be puppets.
10 singers of diverse musical pursuits, from a musicologist to a jazz saxophone player, made up the New York cast. And while many had appeared in previous productions of Dennis Cleveland, most were making their first visit to Australia.
I think the theatre is beautiful, and I really like, you know, the surround of it. The trouble with this piece always in the beginning is the sound, because, you know, we're singing to a track that's affected in so many different ways, and so you're not only singing to, you know, just a soundtrack that you normally recognize it as a soundtrack, but instead it's an aural field of sound that it's totally different.
So how do you deal with those challenges?
We wait for the sound man to really get it together.
It'll still be confusing, and you're still, especially the audience members, you're going to kind of wonder, you know, what am I doing here? In the 3rd chorus of Soul Train, and you don't have to remember any of this, it just may start to come together, but in the 3rd chorus of Soul Train, at a certain point, as I'm conducting the local cast, I will turn around and I will beckon you up almost like in a revival meeting. And the important thing is for you to be slightly confused and sort of get up
not all at the same time, because we're not trying to give up the ghost, but it's really got to be almost as if this really happened to you. Because remember, we haven't gone through all the audience guests yet, so people still don't know who's just an enthusiastic participant in this show and who's part of the show. And I did promise you all that this first run-through will be a total mess. I will not disappoint you.
It's not a piece that leaves a very, fresh, vibrant feeling on you. You kind of walk away and you look at the dirt under your fingernails and say, ooh, what was that all about? What really just happened there?
It's really a commentary on American culture, today's American culture, and the impact of TV and talk shows, told in a very avant-garde, non sequitur, non-literal kind of way.
And this show, I think, pretty much just exposes the ridiculousness of, if that's a word, of our culture and using American talk shows as a form of entertainment. You don't have anything else to do with your life but sit in front of a television.
Why are
and
you
watch.
here today? There's got to be someplace else.
Certainly.
TV talk shows are kind of like soap operas in America. People don't like to admit that they watch them, because they're considered lowbrow, but everybody's sort of curious about them because they pander to the basest elements. So it's kind of like, oh, you mean I can be on a TV talk show, but it's an intellectual one, so, it's kind of cool.
It brings together various kinds of music in a way that no one, in my experience, has done before. And I've been working in the music field for 20 years. I write books on music. I'm exposed to a lot. And here was this guy who wrote music which not only embodied rock and roll, but embodied medieval chant, embodied almost, Gregorian elements. It embodies the musical techniques of the Romantic era.
Pop and R&B.
Pop, R&B, rap.
It's a real thing in the pocket to burn, to stand in line and take your turn. To motion sickness, to mother's milk. At the turn of the century, it's the murder mill. And the safety in numbers that you got from TV, that you got from the movies, that you got from maybe. Is the line to the oven when nothing smells nothing like the plank that you walked when you gave up the top. The momentum makes a given that there's nothing gonna be left around. For this reason, when the time was there, you built another hotel. Billy Goat don't know the difference from wholesale. Gonna be the promise. Mobile, I still got no point in the middle of life, so you take all the love in one night.
I knew I wasn't interested in doing a piece that was parody or that was kitsch. So for me, I had to find the angle that would make it interesting. And I guess for me, it was discovering the John Ralston Saul book, Voltaire's Bastards.
John Ralston talks about celebrity and how politicians, presidents and prime ministers and so on have become celebrities, even though they are mundane and in fact moribund individuals with very little going for them, that they've learned the tricks of presenting themselves and of giving good advice, which has become circular. And that's the sort of thing that Michael is talking about in this show. It's about television and how all the new things that keep turning up in TV really just reiterate the same things, and it's like we're kind of like little rats in a wheel going round and round and round, going, oh, looking for something new and exciting each time. So in fact, there's never actually anything new there.
John Saul hit on an idea, not about talk shows specifically, but television in general, and that it wasn't about good programming, but it was about the repetition, the ritual of repetition that was normally associated with religion, but in the modern age, in the humanist age, that's changed. And it made a lot of sense to me.
All my life, I've been loveless.
L-O-V-E-L-E-S.
Out of spite and above it.
L-O-V-E-L-E-S.
Look, if I can create this,
L-O-V-E-L-E-S.
then the sky is the limit.
L-O-V-E-L-E-S. And leave off the last S for saving. Beautiful murders, beautiful, beautiful murders. Beautiful murders, beautiful, beautiful murders. Beautiful murders.
There's a little dance sequence I do with Levinsky in Beautiful Murders, and that's sort of a Detroit version of the bus stop from the 70s that he taught me, that he learned in clubs. So with the exception of that little bit, everything I do is pretty different every night, and just exploring, movement, and I love dancing, but I've never taken a class, but this is sort of inspiring me to want to.
It's great dance music for one thing, and I think that the choral layering and the juxtaposition of phrases, the rhythmic and harmonic things that Mikel has done are all interesting.
All my music, including the chamber music, but especially now into these operas, not only employ this counter poetry thing I work about, which is basically unpitched voices but scored in metric counterpoint, but it's also always involved large-scale rotating metric structures, which actually provide the beginning, the middle, and the end resolution. So instead of traditional harmony, you're actually getting harmonic resolution through rhythm, and it's through the convergence of pieces of elements that come together, so that in quite unlikely harmonic formations, you actually get the feeling that something has resolved.
I have no regrets, certainly no remorse for the period that has passed, the occasion spent searching. Well, searching is a bit strong or misleading. I was mostly watching TV, but still hoping for some idea of purpose. The days would come and go. I loved coffee shops. I loved bars. Bars with talk shows especially. And these were not just stop-offs. They passed as life. And life takes on a shape, turns it round, has a conversation with itself, is oblivious to passions, to mistakes, to favorite foods, to the rise and fall.
I really like the music because it's contemporary feels that you recognize as, well, that's from the R&B, that's from hip-hop, that's from rock and roll, but then with this marvelous way that he's architecturally placed things so that it ends up sounding very dissonant at times and modern.
The cast members who were placed in the audience mingled in character in the foyer before the show, meeting theatregoers who never quite filled the space and who were to have mixed responses to the piece. Some grasped their role, applauded with enthusiasm on cue and prepared to find salvation in popular culture, while others found themselves bombarded with relentless sounds while straining to comprehend the lyrics and being bemused by often obscure fragments of spoken text.
When people wonder, well, what does the piece mean, or what is it ultimately about? I'd probably be the last person who could answer that completely, but I think that what saves the piece, or what makes the piece something other than just this sort of very unique staging, is that the redemption or the redemptive quality of the piece comes through the music. And what I like about that is because it's not a literal answer, or there are no easy answers, which I think, especially in America, religion and the ritual of religion tries to provide.
It was a simple kind of verse, not profound in any way, but as I tried to catch your eye, your mirage began to sway, and I thought, how can it be that a mindless sort of phrase could encourage this response, could put this woman in a daze? You said, baby, can't you see that our meeting wasn't chance, that by sitting by the road you were waiting for this dance, and the power of suggestion in this moment, on this day, is the way we make religion, how we make up what to pray.
I feel empowered to change my life, to leave my boyfriend and quit my job and get more work done on my face.
Burt Bacharach said, all what the world needs now is love, sweet love, not a bunch of deadbeats. Why don't you start giving instead of sucking the life out of everything?
You mean you don't believe? No, I want to believe, but I can't. It's like I said, I just don't get it.
What do you do for a living?
Me? I'm a systems analyst.
There were all sorts of little Australian dialects and things that I didn't know about that the cast would inform me about, and we would sort of bend and shift the script a little bit so that it would sort of incorporate that.
People who go there with a certain expectation as to what it will be, and the nature of this piece is there's no fourth wall, and so everybody's a part of it. And some people really resisted that. They were like, no, I go to see Octagon Theatre, I'm not part of this, and they would just sit there and their whole body language would be very rigid. And other people right from the beginning were like, yeah, let's go, I want to be on this video screen. And so you had both types, and usually by the end everybody gets won over and everybody's tapping their foot and singing. But in the beginning you can see the people who are just like, I didn't pay to be in a show, I paid to go to a show,
There are certain people who are, you can see, they hold back or they're really maybe a little put off. But if everyone was comfortable with it, we'd be doing something wrong. If we weren't challenging anyone, then we wouldn't be going far enough, in my opinion.
I mean, there are icons in our societies, and we just take them as icons. We don't question them. And this is a good way to question things about your life.
Ending the summit, 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 money, 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 summit, money, 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 ending the summit, money, 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 saving money,
The book recommends, and the show, I believe, recommends doubting, looking very closely into things, going, hold on, what's going on here, really?
He's out of there. I want him gone. He's out of there. He's out of there. I want him gone. He's out of there. He's out of there. I want him gone. He's out of there. He's out of there. I want him gone. He's out of there. He's out of there. I want him gone.
to the performances, I find people don't know if it's real or not. They wonder if we really were doing a taping. They wonder if it's going to air. And I think it's that kind of suspended disbelief, which of course all performance aspires to. I think that's one of the things that keeps it on edge for the audience all the time. Repeated viewings or listenings sort of provide something, more and more density and more layers of things that you can delve into.
The lag time between miracles is life. The population boom, the ultimate prelude. We deliver. And why are you here today? There's gotta be someplace else.